Thank you, Ali, and thank you to all the three speakers who were before the break. I thought you were all I really loved all of your talks, so I'm really delighted to be here. Yeah, I've come up from Somerset, and my talk this evening, well, it's a little bit provocative. Yeah, I mean, you heard the content warnings at the beginning. You know, this is a permissive space where we can be provocative, and I'm going to be provocative, but maybe not in the way that you're imagining. No, not in the arousing way, but more in the perhaps causing strong reactions way, or certainly presenting something that might be a little bit different. I mean, Ali mentioned my talk is about what might be called boring sex. And when Ali, this began because when Ali asked me if I wanted to speak, I thought, well, there's nothing new to say. I've watched some of the lectures, and there's so many wonderful talks that have already been given around all the adventurous and wild and wonderful sexuality that's out there. And I thought, I don't have anything to add. And then my little mischievous part crept up and said, well, what about talking about the kind of sex that a lot of people are having that maybe doesn't get talked about on a podium? I'm kind of fascinated by that kind of sex, so that's what I decided to talk about. As Ali said, I'm a sex, relationship and intimacy therapist. I'm really fascinated by the intersection of relationship and sex. I live in Glastonbury, and I also, as well as doing private practice with couples and individuals, I also run workshops. I've spent a long time assisting Jan Day with her work around relationship and intimacy. So I run intimacy workshops and dating events. So some of you might know me from those. And I've also, quick question. Who here would be interested in leaving tonight and going away and having boring sex? May I have a show of hands? Quite a lot of you. Okay. My work here. Great. Another origin of my talk, it came from the fact that when I work with individuals, I use the Wheel of Consent a lot, and Ali mentioned we met on a Wheel of Consent workshop, and I absolutely love the Wheel and Betty Martin's work, and I use it all the time with my with clients. And we explore these questions about receiving. You know, what would you like to receive? And we start with a blank piece of paper. And so often I hear, I have no idea. I have no idea what I want to receive. So we might brainstorm, and sometimes I might throw things into the mix, and I might say, well, maybe being held or having your face stroked. And it has surprised me when people have said, could I have that? Could I really ask for that? Because that would be boring. Wouldn't that be boring to ask for that? I find that sad too. And it also, I suppose the reason why I'm making this talk is that it was my own experience on my first Wheel workshop, where what I wanted was quite a lot less than I was used to. And I didn't know whether I could ask for that. And then sometimes people say, oh, that's too vanilla. Vanilla has entered into the language as a bit of an insult. It's been used in the kink community just as something, it's just an explanation. It's just things that are non-kink. It's not an insult, but it's moved somehow into the language as being, this is from the Urban Dictionary, unexciting, normal, conventional, boring. And I've also heard from young women, teenage women, who, if you're called vanilla as a teenage girl, then basically what you're being told is that you're bad in bed. And that's become an insult. That to be vanilla is to be bad in bed. And, what 14-year-old human would want to be considered bad in bed? So that's what kind of prompted me to talk about this evening. So I'm an advocate for the kind of sex where not very much happens. That's the kind of sex I'm talking about. If you were watching a fly on the wall, maybe you wouldn't see very much happening. It's not lust and thrust. It's not lots of friction. There's not fireworks going off. It's fairly simple. May or may not include some penetration, may or may not include some orgasm, may or may not include genital touch, may or may not include erections. There may be not very much happening. So what might be happening? Well, there might be, Benoit's talk gave us a lot of ideas about how we can be in our bodies, the breath, sound, We might include more breath, certainly conscious touch, gentle touch, and a resensitizing of the genitals, like not friction touch, but maybe like cupping. That's something I'm always talking with my clients about, this just gentle cupping and holding of the genitals in a tender way, and rest, like not having a break. And of course, in those pauses, in those spaces, then feelings may arise, and they may not be easy feelings. Most of us have some trauma in our bodies when it comes to sex, because most of us at some point in our sexual development override ourselves and went too fast. And that men and women, we said yes to things when we meant no. And we've got memories of that in our system. And if we leave space and we're not in all the excitement, then sometimes those feelings are going to come through. So, that may be part of this. You already saw this one. I am absolutely a huge fan of the sex positivity movement, and I am part of it, and I really enjoy all the adventurous things. And it's wonderful that it's more mainstream, and it's wonderful that we have permissive spaces. But I do wonder if there is an unintended consequence, especially for young people or for people who are coming into the dating scene and haven't been in really long-term relationships and are popping into the dating scene, that if they're not, having multiple orgasms or having anal play or squirting or dressing up or being a tantric goddess, then maybe they're not enough, that they're less than in some way. And that's why I wanted to speak up tonight for something that the more subtle. I'm a huge fan of Diana Richardson's work. You may have guessed that from the themes I'm talking about. Diana Richardson has books about slow sex, tantric sex, and another thing that prompted me to want to do tonight's talk was hearing Sarah Rose Bright, who is a wonderful sex teacher and colleague. And Sarah interviewed Diana on her podcast recently, and Sarah posed the question to Diana and said, well, what about, I think some people may consider that this might get a bit boring. And Diana said, it could happen that there would be pauses, that there would be times of not being excited. And my inquiry is, are we able to give ourselves that? Are we able to give ourselves times when there isn't very much happening, when maybe we do feel a bit disappointed or bored or tired, where we're not kind of having a peak experience? Have we got zero tolerance for that? And I'm also really interested in the idea of absence. I've written written loads of blogs about presence. I'm always banging on about presence, and of course, presence is, it's vital. Being able to be with the person that we're with or people that we're with and giving them full attention and being mindful in our awareness. And I think it's really interesting to like not be doing that sometimes and to just come back to yourself. Like for me, sometimes when I just come back to myself and I'm not trying to be present or trying to be mindful and I'm just being, that's when my curiosity might arise. That's when new ideas might come through. So yeah, I just thought that was an interesting concept, the idea of absence. You know, we know a lot now about how we are over-adrenalised, we've got a lot of stimulation in our lives, there's a lot of excitement, and we know a lot about the nervous system. And calming the nervous system and finding ways to kind of come into more equilibrium. For many of us who've had a lot of overriding our nervous system and going very fast, that can be a wonderful thing. So I just think it's interesting to see how lovemaking can play a part in other ways in which we're giving ourselves more rest and more sleep, and you know, can we also have lovemaking which is calm and restful. So yes, I was being deliberately provocative in my talk's title. I do not think this kind of sex is boring at all. I actually think that in a world that's dopamine fueled and full of excitement and full of adrenaline, it's actually pretty countercultural and revolutionary to go slower. So I say let's embrace it all, the wild, the unconventional, the wild and wonderful, and the more ordinary, and celebrate our ordinary sex with pride. Thank you very much.